Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Monday, February 1st, 2021. I was about to say January. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV, channel 7, 11 and 20. And good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. Thank you so much for tuning into To The Point. This morning I have joining me as our virtual guest representatives of the Public Workers Union. I have the second Vice President Arthur Pierre and Public Relations Officer Daisy Hazzard. And of course, the issue on the front burner is the 4% increase for public workers and teachers. Good morning, Mr. Pierre and Ms. Hazzard. How are you both?
Good morning, Blossom. Good morning, Grenada. I'm doing pretty well. Thank God for life.
Amen.
And the opportunity to see the rising of the sun.
Amen.
I hope that you're doing as good as I am.
I'm hoping. I can't complain so far for 2021. So let's get right into it. The issue, or one of the issues on the front burner for public workers and teachers, is the issue of the 4% that I guess public officers were expecting as the end of January 2021 is the first day of February. So let me ask, a matter of fact, has the 4% been paid?
When last I checked the little pittance that I received, I did not see any increases on the salaries. That will be on Friday when I checked. So I would say no, that increase has not been reflected on the salary. I don't know if it might be reflected today, but as of now, I know that we have not received that, and I know a number of my colleagues have indicated that they have not received anything as an increase.
All right, so now let's look at what's next for public officers and teachers. As a matter of fact, let's just do a brief synopsis of the present situation, what public officers have been expecting, why they're expecting it, and then we'll go from there. So give us, for those who are unaware of what the current issue is for public officers and teachers.
All right. So to do the current issue, I want to highlight some facts, okay, as it relates to how the issue of the 4% came about. All right. You know that some time ago, maybe a year or two ago, we negotiated with government for an increase. It's normal thing. So we would have gotten an increase in 2020, or 4% in 2020. Okay. Kudos to the government. However, in September of 2020, the government negotiating team called the unions to a meeting to discuss the impact of COVID on the economy. In that meeting, they presented information justifying the inability to pay the 4%. Right? Unions were to respond to the request of government to forego. And I want to underline that. Government said to us that we want you to forego the 4% in 2021. On September 25th, government sent another letter requesting a response from union. Now, we were late in responding because we had to check with our members to hear what they were saying. On October 2nd, union responded with the request in writing. Request facilitated to get more time. We sent a letter saying, look, we needed some more time because we were not able to canvass all our members. On October 9th, the union responded indicating the government that members were unwilling to forego the 4% increase. However, members indicated that they were willing, first of all, to accept 2% in January and to defer the next 2% until July of 2021 under some conditions. Condition number one, that government honor the labor code by addressing the issue of contractual workers who are working as public officers without proper instrument of employment. Two, that the Food and Nutrition Council workers get an increase due to them for 2020 period. Three, public officers' job should be preserved. All right. And four, that irregularities regarding vacation for daily paid workers be sorted out. These are the conditions that we stated that we would want to discuss if we have to defer the next 2% until January 2021. So basically, that is it. But October 13th, the union received a letter from government acknowledging receipt of the proposal. And December 31st, unions were invited to a meeting at which point the GNT agreed to a deferral of the 4%. And I want to quote, for some time in the future when they could pay. And I want to repeat that. They are willing they agree to the deferral of the 4%, and I quote, to sometime in the future when they could pay. Now, these are the facts that as we have it on record in our files. One of the issues I have is there were pronouncements in the public. Now, imagine you are talking to somebody that you have an arrangement with, but you would have included the public in a matter that is between government and its employees, okay? So what government did was to try the whole issue in the court of public opinion. And that is what I have a little bit of problem with. I have serious problems with that. Because I believe government could have called unions and say, look, we realize that you want the 2%. This is our situation. This is a time I believe that this is the timeline that we're working with as it relates to when we think we might be able to pay. They have said no such thing. Instead, we are hearing pronouncements in Parliament. We are hearing pronouncements in the public. We are hearing pronouncements among social partners. And unions say, well, no, this is unfair. We cannot, as an entity representing the public service, we cannot as an entity be disrespected, disregarded, and ignored about something that you had an agreement with government for, right? So that is the basis on which, we are upset. Public workers are upset. Public workers have sacrificed years upon years when it was the time for us to not get increases for however long. We accepted that, we grumbled about it, but the fact is that we put Grenada first, okay? When it was a time when we said, look, we needed X amount of percentage in increase in salary, no, in fact, the GNT walked off the table and said that we were deadlocked when we know that we were not a deadlock, when we were willing to negotiate salary increases for this very set period, okay? But government has continually played hardball with the public service, with public officers, and with the unions. Our officers sacrificed during this period of COVID. When you look at our nurses and our doctors, they have sacrificed. I work with the issues of COVID, and when I see some of the nurses, they're tired, almost dragging themselves to get into the door every day, right? And all we got for it for our nurses was horn. That's all we got. A blaring of horns and a ringing of bells, nothing else. So at this point, I would rest my case and I would let the PRO do her job. I'm not the spokesperson for the Public Workers Union. I am just your humble servant.
Daisy, you can come in here. Just Friday, I saw the notice of heightened action to protest the breach of the agreement. Over the weekend, I also saw a notice from the Grenada Union of Teachers advising their members of what's the next step. Moving forward, today, February 1st, 2021, what's going to take place from the union's point of view, and hoping that government, well, as much as possible, best as possible, continue with the arrangements in the agreement. I'm saying as much as possible because they've passed the January PD.
Good morning, Blossom. Thank you for having us on. And good morning to all our listeners at home and abroad, wherever you may be. It's a wonderful day in Grenada. There's a beautiful rain falling. But right now, we are uneasy. If your civil servants, your public service workers in your country are not comfortable, the country cannot be comfortable. Because we are the bedrock of this society. Not by ourselves alone, but I think Brother Pierre outlined a compelling case for public workers. And the pandemic and the period of lockdown and panic last year when we were first grappling with the COVID-19, if at all we had a doubt as a nation as to the value, the service, the role, and indeed the might of the public service, if we ever had a doubt as to what it is these people do when they go to work every day, the COVID-19 period last year, 2020, threw that into sharp relief. It was our workers, our public service members coming out when the rest of the country were locked down at home. Not just our nurses and doctors, all of our healthcare team, administrators, laboratory workers, drivers, cleaners, janitors, the entire healthcare staff, they had to come out. They had to come out at a time when nothing was in place for them. And even now, there's still not a lot in place for them. They had to leave their families and their homes and their children unattended and make their way every day to the various workplaces. Our staff at customs, borders all over Grenada, be it at the port here, our airports, wherever it might have been, persons had to come out. Indeed, even now, these are the persons who are still patrolling and managing our borders and keeping the COVID virus at bay. Because most of the time when we hear about new cases, it's not within the community, it's at the border. Our tax persons, the persons who collect revenue in our society, when we met with government in November of last year, and they outlined to us how badly the economy had fallen and how much revenue they had collected for the year, it was our workers coming out during the pandemic to collect these taxes on behalf of the government and people of Grenada. And so we did give them a round of applause, but applause is not enough. Applause can't buy jacks in the market. Noise can't buy jacks in the market. And so it's not that we deserve a 4% raise. We more than deserve a 4% raise, but there is a legal imperative. There is a legal binding agreement between the government of Grenada and the public workers of Grenada. Public workers members, public workers union members, TAU members, members represented by the TAU, members represented by the Grenada Union of Teachers, and police. We may not be hearing the police because based on their role in the society, they will not come out and be speaking about their 4%, but they want it and they need it just as much as we do. They have worked as hard or even harder than the rest of us, and we all need it. So when you speak about public servants, it's not just workers in the complex, it's workers cutting through every strata of Grenada. And so today, February 2nd, February 1st, when we should have been rejoicing for the little $60 more on our salaries, for some persons, it's just about $60, it's just about $100, but it makes a difference. We are uneasy. We're here in this beautiful country, but we're not happy. We're uncomfortable because there is a government who is dishonorable, who is dealing with and has dealt with the public service in Grenada dishonorably. Men and women of Grenada, brave men and women of Grenada who stand up for our country when our country needs us. And Blossom and listening public, let us be very clear. The pandemic is not over. WHO has not declared that the pandemic is over. We need our civil servants. We need our civil servants to be healthy and happy. We need to know that they can buy vitamins, perhaps, that they can afford the food that they need to keep themselves healthy every day. The pandemic is not over. We look at neighboring islands who are bragging that their case load was so low, and now they're almost at 700 or surpassed it. And so far, God has been good to us. We've had some tragedy, we've had some cases, but God has been good to us. But I say this to say, Blossom, we may need, even more than we have ever needed, our healthcare providers, all of them, and our civil service even more, because no one holds the future except God in his hands. And so we are saying, if there is a legal agreement, why do we have to be here with you, Blossom? Talking about a legal agreement that we have with government. We shouldn't be here. We should be at the table having conversation with our government, with the GNT, about moving our country forward. You owe us. You have a legal obligation to pay us. You have not paid us. And you're just going to blatantly say, well, I cannot pay you, and I will pay you when I regain my ability to honor my commitment amidst the uncertainty of the current. What's that? What kind of a verbiage is that? That is language to roll up and push into the garbage bin. Because if you owe, let's just break it down. I like to break things down. We owe courts, we owe the bank, we have a mortgage, and we might have lost our income. Some persons lost their income during the pandemic, and we are well aware of that. And our hearts go out to them. And it's not a matter of the public servant against other workers in this country, as government would want to make it out. There's no case that the public servants of this country has against any other worker in this country. Indeed, we support this country because in every home in Grenada, there is a public servant. I am certain that in every home in Grenada, a public servant gives some support. So we're together in this boat with everyone. But you have a legal agreement and you can't pay because your circumstance has been reduced. And you just say to the bank on the radio or on social media, I can't pay you. You know there was a pandemic and my salary cut. We can't do that, Blossom. We have to go properly. We have to sit. We have to engage in civil discourse as reasonable people with common sense and a bit of education. And we have to come to some agreement and to some terms. We have not been unreasonable. Unions and public workers have not been unreasonable. We have said to government, we cannot take no. You've asked us to give up what is ours. We have said no, but we are willing, in the interest of the country, understanding the prevailing conditions, to give a deferral. Government, you come and sit with us and work those terms out. And the terms and conditions cannot be, I will pay you sometime in the future whenever I can. So the question you lay before us is, what are public servants doing today? And there is a lot that we can do. There is a presumption, perhaps by our administration. The callousness with which they treat tells you that there is some feeling that perhaps the public servants are helpless in the face of the might of government. And that's something else we have to query a little later, but we are not helpless. We have the might. We have a lot at our disposal that we can do. And as I said this morning, we are uneasy. And if we are uneasy, and if we're not comfortable, I don't see that anybody else can be easy and comfortable.
Government is saying that, okay, 2020 was a kind of year. Brooks, I just paid $63 million to repurchase shares in Greenlick. I need a deferral of that payment that I need to pay to public workers. Can the unions, the workers, give a little leeway, a little, as we say, bly to government?
So Blossom, let's get back again to the point that both myself and second VP would have made. We have offered that. We have placed that on the table, but the conversation and a new agreement cannot take place on GBN to the point. A new agreement between government and workers' union cannot take place on the streets. It cannot take place from our parliament. It can only take place on the table between the two parties. We have offered that. We have placed some terms and conditions with our offer. And what a responsible government ought to do and has to do is to come and sit with us and say, we cannot meet this like this, but perhaps we can do X. We cannot do A, but perhaps we can do B. But you have a government who's saying, I don't know what you are talking about. And I'm going to speak to the churches, and I'm going to speak to the NGO, and I'm going to shout from the parliament, and I'm going to send my persons on radio and TV to make a case against workers. Why are you making a case against workers? We are your people. We are the bedrock of your society. The case is to be made on the table between the two parties. And if you're not doing that, it means that you as the lawmakers in this country, willy-nilly, willfully, you're just breaking the laws of the country. And we are a country of laws. We are governed by rules. We are obeying the rules. We, the public, the workers' union, we are obeying the rules. We are saying, government, we know that we had an agreement with you. You placed something before us. We have placed something back. Let us come and sit down and have a conversation. And that is not happening. And so we are reasonable, Blossom. We have been reasonable. We are not the party that has been unreasonable and ungovernable.
The not stipulations, but the proposals and revised proposals you've made, would they still be what you're proposing now, seen as government has basically saying, we don't like that new arrangements? Would you say, okay, you don't want it, then give us full 4%, or are you willing to negotiate from the new proposal, or is the new proposal still in place? What's taking place with that? So if, in case somebody's listening, they can hear what can take place.
again, Blossom, that conversation can only happen at the table between government and unions.
So nobody has made a proposal to meet?
In our last agreement, as was pointed out by the representative of the teachers union on our press conference last Thursday, our agreement stipulates what happens if the agreement changes. The last agreement that we signed in 2019, the law is clear. You ought to honor the agreement. Where something comes up that mandates or necessitates a change in the agreement, if parties cannot agree by the date in which the agreement should be honored, the party that has to pay has to honor the last agreement. So that's what it is. The law is clear. There is no ambiguity as to what should happen. And if the government cannot meet its commitment to workers, the place where a new agreement has to take place again is at the table. And we are asking the government, in the interest of ease and peace and comfort in our country, to come to the table and have some discussions with our union so that we can form a new agreement. This is what we are asking.
Last week, Friday, GTAU asked its members to participate in industrial protest. The notice from GUT that I saw over the weekend has advised of Mobilization Day, union T-shirts, Red Day, honking the horns, 4-4 at 4 on the 4th. Are those the actions that are for the next step of the process, or can we expect there to be more protest action, specifically coming from PW? I've heard from TAU and GUT.
Right. If I may, we will be supporting our brother and sister unions in some of those very said protests. We will be conducting some of those protests. We still are at a point of discussion in terms of what heightened protests that we would use to send a message to government that we do want our 4%. So look out. We will be participating and certainly giving each other support as we struggle with this issue.
Brother Pierre, if I may just add to that, Blossom, it is important here to note that unions are in discussions, and we are committed to whatever action we take going forward as joint unions. So the teachers union would have put out, as you rightly said, a week of activities. Last week, we asked our members to wear union T-shirt on Friday. We have also asked our workers to wear red and black. And here I must stick a point. Today we are wearing black because we lost 2 members of our fraternity over the weekend. And so we want to send out condolence greetings to our members, the faculty and staff at the TAMCC, because over the weekend we lost 2 members. And today should have been a red day and a black day, but we are mostly wearing black in solidarity with and in support of our fallen members. Our healthcare workers received horns. And when our unions met, when our presidents and so met to discuss what are the actions that we are going to take, this week, we felt that we ought to give back the noise that we were given, because noise is nothing. Noise is meaningless. If after you give us noise and you say to our country, oh, let's make some noise for these workers, at the end of the day, you come out in usual stride, seeming to want to again engage in a public fight with your workers. And it's sad, every time in the last 20 years or more, let's just go back to recent memory, 2013, every single time there is an industrial issue between government and workers of this country, the public service workers of this country, it's a brawl. Why does it have to be a brawl? It doesn't have to be a brawl. Brawls solve nothing. Conflict, brawls, making noise in the street solves nothing. Why does it have to be a brawl? Why haven't we ever seen at some point along this continuum, 2013 to 21 or even before, that government and unions can come out together and say to our people, we have had some salary negotiation discussions, and this is the agreement that we have come to for the next 3 years. That should happen. Why hasn't it been happening? It's not because unions don't want it. It's not because we have not created the enabling environment for this to happen. We are doing that. We keep bending over backward. And yet it is not happening. So we do have our actions coming on this week. We are wearing red, we are wearing black, we are wearing our union t-shirts. We will be giving back the horn. And one might be tempted to ask, well, you wear black and you wear red, so what? What's the big deal with that? Those are not the only actions that we are considering. We are beginning this week. And as with any long distance race, you don't start out with your 100-meter stride. You pace yourself. So we are pacing ourselves. And we are asking our workers to be vigilant, to stand by, to listen to the voice of your union, and workers have assured us, what are we doing? We are not going to sit by quietly and just allow our employer to disrespect us. We deserve better. We have earned better by our actions and our examples. We deserve better. And so we are standing by and we are ready. And let not anybody perceive that perhaps we are so timid and we have been so cowed into submission, but that we are not prepared to stand up for ourselves. We are prepared to stand up for ourselves.
Let's take a break and come back and continue the discussion. Also field some questions from members of the public. I already see some questions on the Facebook that we'll get to on the other side of the break. This is To The Point. We'll be right back.
Now we can stay safe while at the same time reducing our budget to maintain a clean and safe environment at our home, school, office, church, or even on the bus. Fortune Foods has gone a long way to source premium products that are at least 30 to 50% less than other brands. That's right, 30 to 50% cheaper than other brands. We have a multi-purpose 80% strength liquid sanitizer for cleaning surfaces that is also safe on hands, as well as 70 to 75% gel sanitizers available in 1 gallon and smaller sizes. Plus, when you buy in bulk, you save even more. Right now, every dollar counts. Be wise. Sanitize with Fortune Foods' range of sanitizing products.
Distributed by Fortune Foods Company Limited, Tempe, St. George's. Telephone 435-2247.
Calypso fans, the 9 finalists to challenge the reigning independence Calypso monarch Sean Nas, the Summer Serpent, on Friday, February 5th at the National Stadium have been selected. Admission is free from the comfort of your homes. Will Summer Serpent hold on to the reign, or will the crown change heads as Sheldon Douglas, Anthony Darius, Croqueta, Jermaine Simon, Teddy Christopher, Philanda Jeffrey, Alicia Alexis, Edison Francis, and Anthony Etienne all vie for the coveted crown. Time alone will tell, so join the National Celebrations Committee in what promises to be an evening of great calypsos. Carried live on GIS Channel 22, the National Celebrations Committee, and GIS Facebook pages and YouTube channels. Remember the date, Friday, February 5th, 6 p.m. The virtual staging of the 2021 Independence Calypso Monarch, building together a safer, more resilient nation in these challenging times.
Sneezes spread diseases, so cover coughs and sneezes, please. Not with a rag or bandana. They trap germs. When you use the rag again, you put germs on your hands and everything else you touch. When you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth and nose with tissue. Throw the tissue in a bin and wash your hands afterwards. If you don't have a tissue, cough into your sleeve or elbow. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers are also effective in cleaning hands.
Welcome back to the Point. We're speaking with Second Vice President of the Public Workers Union, Arthur Pierre, and Public Relations Officer Daisy Hazzard. We are speaking about the present, I can call it an impasse between public officers and the government in relation to the 4% agreed upon for the salary increases for our public officers and teachers. At this point in the program, we're going to take some questions from our viewers and listeners who may have them. 435-2041, that's the landline number. That's also the WhatsApp. You can also message us and ask your questions on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, as well as the YouTube channel. Please only written questions on the WhatsApp. Let's go to our first call. Okay, we lost that caller. Let me go to the Facebook. There were some questions on Facebook. One of the questions on Facebook asks, is the bickering among the executive of the union, is that what is causing government not to take the union seriously?
Let me answer that question. Whatever person's perception may be about anything within the executive of the union has absolutely no bearings on what is for every single public servant. So we can have bickering as much as possible, but we are united when it comes to the issue of 4% for every public servant. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Now, if government, and I don't believe government would ever even think about that, or imagine that, if government is saying, because you are bickering, we're not giving, that is ludicrous. That is way out there. So certainly not. I would not see that at all.
Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom. And good morning to Sister Daisy and the other gentleman from the PWU. I say solidarity forever. As a concerned Grenadian, a parent, a citizen, I really wish that you guys could explain a little more to the general public, because sometimes I'm of the opinion they behave as if, well, the union is a political party. And we must deal with the issue at hand and what confronts us. How long this 4% had been negotiated for? Because sometimes they behave as if, well, this is something that just happened and the union jumping up now because it's COVID and they want 4%. When I listen to another medium and I hear they talk about teachers or public servants being greedy, these are the same people we refer to as frontline workers, those cashiers, those on the PBX, whoever. And it really hurts me. And whatever, strike, it doesn't help us. You have to do what you have to do. But when I know people like in CWU have been offering courses in floral decoration, in cake making, and you tell me the union hadn't been not doing anything for the workers, it really hurt me. So I really wish the union need to enlighten people and the activities they must be doing. Have a good day and God bless you.
Thank you, caller.
I just want to respond to one thing that the caller said in the first part of our presentation. Now, this 4% is not something that we just jumping up hot and sweaty and asking for. This is something that government agreed on. They agreed that there will be increases for 3 years. 4%, 4%, 4%. We got our 4% in 2020. Now we are saying that we need our 4% in 2021. Government called, as I outlined earlier, they called and they said they had issues. We responded that, okay, you had issues, but we are going to take that. And this was PWU's response. Let me not get it mixed up. This was PWU's response. After we consulted our members, we said we would take 2 in January and defer it at a later date. What government was telling us, and I want to repeat, that they wanted unions to forego. And forego basically means that forget about getting any increases in 2021. And they would give us, well, right now they said deferrals back on the table, but they're going to pay us when they can. And we are saying that we can't accept that.
Blossom, if I may just add and respond to the caller. Caller, I want to thank you for your observations. I want to thank you for bigging up our union. And indeed, our union does quite a lot in seeking to empower our members and to increasing the skill set among our members, and so that they can earn extra income, because the salaries that public servants work for can't make it. Everybody has to find a way to burn the candle on the other end to ensure that they can meet their monthly commitments. And so thank you for making those observations. And certainly, as a union organization, we are not political at all. What we are about is development of our country. What our members are about is developing every single day our country. But we must be mindful that just as our Constitution, 47 years this year, February 7th this year, gives a place for government, for political parties and political administrations in our country, one of the pillars of our Constitution are labor unions. We have a role to play. We have a role to play in keeping our democracy sound, in keeping our government honest. And it brings me to two things. Our public service has been diminished. Our capacity has been reduced willfully by government, by this administration. You have workers in this country who have been working and toiling and laboring with this government, many of them in the healthcare sector. Some persons due to retire this year. I mean that they're 60 this year, or will be 60 sometime this year, and they are still not permanently established workers. They are still temporary workers. There's a labor code. There are laws in this country that governs how people ought to be employed. And the laws of our country clearly states that where a worker has been employed continuously in the same position, doing the same duties for a period of 2 years, that worker should be made permanent, and is indeed permanent. And this is part of what we have been saying to government. You cannot pay us our 4% increase as you ought to legally, but we have some burning issues on the table that should also concern government. Government should be as concerned, or even more, as the unions, that there are people, Grenadian citizens, ordinary men and women, humble men and women, who have been toiling and slaving and sweeping our floors and mopping up our dirty spills. And yet, their take-home pay is so low. Yet, they have never had the dignity and the security of having permanent establishment. And you go now to our Imani workers, my gosh. I mean, this one would move anybody. Our young people, at the point in their lives when they should be adventurous and fearless and seeking to map out a future for themselves, a bright future that they can see, they are hobbled, they are constrained, they are ashamed. They have been placed in positions where 10 years on. One media reporter noted it last week. She says, I've been with the media for 8 years. And I was an Imani when I first left school. And I see some of my friends who are still within the government service, and their position today is still Imani. And it's not for want of positions. It's not for want of permanent positions within the service, but it is to keep persons within positions where they have to feel that somebody is doing them a favor, where they are not paid properly for the work that they put out. And one of our government admitted that in a program recently when they said how they could expect us, if we can't pay 4%, to regularize persons. When we regularize them, then we have to pay them better salaries. So you are admitting that you are knowingly and willfully employing young Grenadian people and underpaying them and discriminating against it and using and abusing them and underpaying them. And you know, there are positions within, there are positions on the books, there are positions within the framework of revenue and expenditure in our country to employ these people decently, to employ them legally, and yet you continue to employ them on contract of various nefarious kinds. And there is provision for contract employment within the public service where government needs a specific skill set or so, but not your bulk of your public service, not your young people who are coming out of school bright and young and aspiring, and then you kill their dreams, you steal their hopes for their future, and you place them in positions of servitude. That's not good enough. We can do better for our young people. We ought to do better for our young people. And Blossom, let's talk about Grenlec.
Before we go to Grenlec, just let me take this call and then we'll get back to Grenlec. I've had the person on hold for a little while. Just let me take the call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning, I'm good.
You know what is hurtful in this country? Is the taxes we pay now, which we ain't supposed to pay. Government guarantee millions of dollars to crooks and conmen coming to this country. Draw down those money and them and go. And as a result, they have to pay back the loan because they are the people who guarantee the loan. We don't eat nothing. We don't drink nothing. They pressure us with taxes on our back to pay back the loan. Now, why you cannot go to the bank and get money and pay the workers that we go pay on it because we're eating from it? But we're paying taxes today on things we don't eat. People draw down millions and millions of dollars and go away with it. We get nothing. It is unjust. It is unfair. It is the same workers today that paying the taxes for those crooks and conmen who draw down those money and them and go. It is unfair, so you could go in the bank, get money and pay the people, and then we pay the tax on it because we eat it from it. It is just. Don't come and tell me you guarantee money for crooks and conmen go away with it. We have to come and pay the taxes. They have to tax us more than ever. You remember he said you will never see the administration forming the government NNP and tax the people overtax the balling.
Okay.
So how that could be fair now? It is the workers who doing the work to bring the revenue in the country, not the ministers.
All right,
they're riding high and dry. Pay the people, workers, union, stand up. It's time to stand up and teach me challenge the administration a lesson. Or little coward. Man.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just that's a very impassionate, very emotional caller there. But this is reflective of how sometimes some of our people feel by the actions of our government. I think I would rest my case there. I don't want to get into anything further.
Blossom, if I may, I want to thank that caller for his very impassioned plea. And he brought 2 points together. That if salaries are small and squeezed, and your tax regime in your country is so hard, it's so forceful, that whatever income you have goes back into taxes and there's no disposable income, your economy can't spin. So in paying public servants is small, 4%, government loses nothing because that money will go back into the economy. Every civil servant has already budgeted and bargained for how to spend that money, whether it is for increased child care, because let's face it, many of us have to find more money to ensure that when we are at work, our children are safe, because schools are not back fully. Children are still not back to school fully. We have had to invest in Wi-Fi and in devices, because many of the devices that we've been granted to our children from the relevant ministry, they don't work. They've already been consigned to the dump heap. And so parents have had to meet those expenses to provide for their children and to be able to keep them safe at home. When you spend that money on somebody who probably didn't have a job before as a babysitter, that money goes back into the economy. And government will tell us, well, we have to pay the bushers, and we have to pay the traffic wardens, and we have to pay the environmental. Listen, again, I want to make the point. There is place on the books, on the established civil service for men and women, young people of Grenada to get decent jobs. Why do we have to have them lining up the streets 2 and 3 at a time and calling them traffic wardens? Why do we have to be hiring them and calling them environmental wardens? What are we creating? Why are we giving people these jobs that has no future? Why are we consigning our Grenadian people to the bushing? Is that the only thing that we are good for? We have a university down the south of the island. More and more, every year, there are graduates coming out of Grenadian homes, from TAMCC, tertiary education, from UE, from universities around the world. And here, the only thing that we are catering for and planning for is to give our people jobs that have no dignity, that has no recurrent spending, that they can't do something with. Is that the best we can do? And then you would say, well, the civil servants want to squeeze people and we're not going to pay them 4% because we have to pay people to clean the side of the road. Sure, the sides of the roads need cleaning, but our civil servants need to be paid as well. We need to be paid so that we can keep this economy spinning. And that gentleman made a brilliant point. And Blossom, should I continue here with Grand Lake?
Yes, I was going to ask.
Let's talk about Grand Lake. So you have a government who is saying all over the place, we can't pay them 4%. It's too much to pay them 4%. When you add it up, it's 13-point-something million every so often. But you found $63 million to pay Grand Lake. And you told us in doing so, why should Grand Lake be owned by some colored skinned people from Miami, and they must sit in Miami and make decisions about my electricity here? You paid them because you said there was a court order. Where is the court order concerning Gemma Bain Thomas? Where is the court order concerning that Grenadian woman who's been forced out of a job, not yet 60, she has to live? The court order to date is not yet 700,000 EC dollars. You have not met on that commitment. You have scoffed at the ruling of the court. The courts in our land, more than one court, the highest courts in our land, has ruled in her favor. Government, you are wrong. You have been wrong. You owe her. You will not pay her. You laugh at the courts, but you tell us, we have found the money from under the mattress, as the president of the teachers union said, or perhaps in the brazier. Wherever you have taken out, the explanations that you have given us for where you have found us, that money does not suffice. It is not credible. But the point of fact is, you found it. You didn't make noise with them. You didn't go on international airwaves and on social media. You didn't call the conference of churches. You didn't go in the houses of parliament and quarrel with WRB. You didn't say we are not paying them because there was COVID last year. You did not say that to the international court. You honored Grenadian money, USD, and you paid them. And yet your own people in your own country, your own courts in your own country, you have scant regard for. What does that say about us? Pay your civil servants. Honor your commitment to your civil servants. If you can't pay us 4% now, show that you have some decency, that you have some commitment to your workers. Pay Gemma Bain Thomas. She not only deserves it, she earned it, she won it. And at the same way you can find the money to pay those people in Miami and to honor that international court, honor your legal obligations here, that you sat before the Ministry of Labor, before your Labor Commissioner, and you signed. We will pay 4% on or before, on January 31st, 31st, 2021. And if we cannot pay it, we ought to go back to the table with the parties and form a new agreement that is agreeable to both parties. This is all we are asking of government.
There's a question on the Facebook and the WhatsApp, which is, they're both basically asking, in the past when public workers, the unions have accepted no increase when we were going through the structural adjustment program, and there have been deferrals, I believe, in the past. Do you think that has set a precedent that government believes it can try the same thing again in 2021 by going that route in the past?
That's a very interesting question. And I do believe, based on the current trends of government, we must look at it like that. I mean, we have given up a lot. Public servants, right? Teachers. We have given up a lot to government and for this country. And we are saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. Every time you make an agreement, you want to renege on it and then believe that we should just lie down and die or just lie down and accept it. No. Government over the years have done the same thing over and over and over again. And at this particular point, we are saying no. We are saying no. We are suffering because of COVID. We are suffering because of the fact that what we asked for as an increase, first of all, was not granted us, and we accepted that 4%. You need to honor your commitment and pay us.
We are almost to the end of the program, but I can't let you both go without asking, as executive members, I understand the Public Workers Union has its own election coming up in March, I believe it is. What details can you give us about maybe the potential candidates and what we can expect from the upcoming elections? Will you both be seeking to regain your positions on the executive? What can you tell us?
As constitutionally due, we do have elections in March of 2021. I, as the second vice president, I'm still contemplating whether or not I should continue to run. I believe that I still have a lot to offer. So more than likely, I take a very long time to make decisions on things, on matters like those, but more than likely I may run. I know that there are a number of persons in contention. So we are just basically, doing what we ought to do. And hopefully we should have a new executive by the end of March.
Well, if I may, Blossom, just to add, as Brother Pierre said, our constitutionally due elections are coming up. And I want to encourage our public service members who are listening out there. Our union needs leaders. We lost some members of our executive within the last 2 years. I don't know whether they will be contesting again. Typically, you don't know until nomination day, which is sometime in February. But I want to encourage our membership to search yourself and stand up and be counted. On elections, they come out and cast your vote for the various positions. But we need leaders. We need men and women who are prepared to stand up and be committed to the union at the executive level, at the level of decision making. It is critical, especially in a situation where the industrial climate is so not what would be desired. And so I am searching myself. I think mostly I've decided that I will contest another position on the executive. Right now I am the PRO. I don't think I might be contesting with Brother Pierre for his position as second VP or first VP or president or something. But I'm committed to putting myself forward to serving my union, because having been in the fold of the executive in the last 2 years, I truly see the need for leadership more and more in our union. And so I'm committed to that cause.
Just to add, we are doing registration at this particular point. We do have a new ID card that we trying to get persons to have. So it's important that persons get registered. All right. When you are registered, you have now that ability to cast your vote. And I also want to agree with Sister Hazzard that we do need issues of there are issues of leadership. Okay, so come out and make your vote count for the forward movement of Public Workers Union. All right.
In terms of the leadership, Rachel Roberts is currently the president. Any word indication if she'll be contesting the position once again? I remember the last election, her competitor was Mr. Grimes, Brian Grimes. Any idea if he'll be contesting it once again? I'm looking at the leadership top position at this time. What can you say about the president position?
Well, I can't speak for any of them, but I'm sure that they may be putting their hats in the ring as it relates to elections. All right, I do expect Mr. Grimes to put his hat in the ring. As for our president, I'm not quite sure.
All right. Well, lady, gentlemen, 30 seconds. Final thoughts as we wrap the program.
Okay, Blossom, I just want to remind the Grenadian public and our members that we have been making the sacrifice. We made it through the homegrown program. We made it beyond the homegrown program, and public workers have been making the sacrifice. We have made the sacrifice so that we can share in the benefits. And we are aware of the prevailing conditions in our society. We are not unreasonable. What we are asking for is for government to come back to the table and renegotiate some sort of an agreement with us for the payment of our 4% down the road. And I also want to, at this time, extend to the GBN community my prayers and support. I know that you have a member who's been ailing. We have felt it hearing about it, and so I just want to extend from our unions our present support to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Pierre?
I also want to extend support to GBN and condolences to the two members that we lost over the weekend. Tau lost, and persons who worked at MCC and persons related to Tau. One of those gentlemen I know very well. And, it was heartbroken when I heard that he passed on. I also want to make an appeal to public service or public servants, we will be calling on you to take action for your money. So we are looking forward for your support. Come out and let your voices be heard on the issues of your 4%. Further to that, I also want to extend happy independence, because this is the week of independence, to everyone. And independence is supposed to be a time a time of freedom, a time of understanding that we have to be patriotic. Okay. So I want to really extend and hope that everybody enjoys a good independence under the COVID conditions. But we, as public servants, we know that the difficult for us not having that's what is due to us. Okay. So asking us to stand for and stand by as we unroll all activities in terms of protest against government's decision.
Thank you very much to you both, and we'll continue to follow the development of the 4%, and hopefully we'll have a conclusion to this in the soonest. Thank you both. Have a good day.
Thank you, Blossom. Thank you, viewers.
Second Vice President of the Public Workers Union, Arthur Pierre, and Public Relations Officer Daisy Hazzard, also of the Public Workers Union. We thank them both for being our guests, and thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Have yourselves a safe, productive Monday. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Continue to be COVID-19 smart, and have yourselves a good one.